Hey, it's Owen at Noise Machine Studios, and today I've got something I've been wanting to play around with for a while. The Warm Audio WA-2MPX. Warm Audio's recreation of a pair of Ampex 351 preamps. Warm Audio is a company out of the USA founded by Bryce Young in 2011. At that time, they were kind of the forefront of bringing reasonably priced hardware clones of classic audio pieces into the reach of people who didn't want to pay the price for vintage equipment or have to DIY it. Since then, they've established a worldwide reputation for their equipment and have cloned items from their first big piece, the 1176, the Neve 1073, a whole handful of Neumann mics, and much, much more. Today we're going to take a look at their brand new WA-2MPX. Now, I've recorded full albums through modified Ampex 351s, so I feel pretty familiar with how they're supposed to sound. Let's take a quick look at the interesting history behind these units. Ampex was originally a reel-to-reel company found on wire recording technology snatched from voided German copyrights post-World War II. Bing Crosby was in fact a large proponent of the company. He decided he'd like to be able to pre-record his popular radio show rather than always do it live, and cutting it to enormous discs for playback just wasn't doing it for him. Crosby was so impressed with the Ampex tape recording of his show, he made $50,000 worth of pre-orders with the company, pretty much as an advance to develop their own technological approach. The 351 unit was originally released in 1958 and came attached to a full-range mono tape transport for recording with. Soon after, you could pick these up with a pair of preamplifiers for an exciting new world of stereo recording too. So, looking over to the WA-2MPX, we've got a stereo Ampex 351 that's ready for recording with. No need to mess around with modifications or replacing temperamental selenium rectifiers. Here we've got a full voltage, no starved plate tube garbage, 300 volt preamp with up to 90 decibels of gain. And here we've got our Cinemag input and output transformers, our 12AX7 tubes, and two 12AU7 tubes for each side. And how does it sound? Surprisingly good. Thick and rich with a soft, tubey top end and plenty of space to mash sounds into distortion. I'm going to run this thing over a recording I did with GC O'Connor the other week. I'll be running drums, guitar and vocals through this thing separately on the line input to see what I can do when these sources are pushed. Alright, we've got our mic line instrument selector over here. And here's our hole for the instrument. We've got our preamp gain and our output level. We've got our 48 volt phantom selector. We've got our high gain switch. We've got a polarity switch. We've got a tone switch which switches in a transformer. We've got an 80 Hz high pass filter, a 2 kHz low pass filter, and a tape saturation switch. Today, I probably won't be using the second half of it because everything I recorded for this was in mono.
You gotta move, you've gotta move, you've gotta move, child, you gotta move. Oh, when the Lord gets ready, you gotta move. You may be high, you may be low, you may be a child, you may be old, but when the Lord gets ready, you gotta move.
And there we have it, the Warm WA-2MPX, a stereo version of the Ampex 351. I went in with a little skepticism because I use a lot of vintage tube preamps in my own recording setup, but I feel like this piece can pretty much hold its own amongst them. It's rich and full with a top end that seems to round off any harsh frequencies. It's maybe not as extreme in character as some of the tube front end stuff I run, but it's reliable and it's got a whole lot of headroom, plenty for even the oldest ribbon mics. I wouldn't have specifically asked for a high pass and low pass filter tube front end, and so many switches do make the front panel feel a little crowded, but you can definitely pull off some very good sounds with it. The tape saturation is maybe towards the harsh side of things, but if you want to ram something with crispy extreme crunch, this switch will indeed do it. And with modern Cinemag transformers, it'll be a long time before windings go bad on this thing, so it won't be like chasing vintage transformers to make replacements like I've had to do a few times with older pieces. Plus the tubes are standard and easy to replace too. It comes stock with a TubeAmp Dr. 12AX7 and a couple of modern Chinese factory 12AU7s. Whilst I feel like the WA-2MPX doesn't 100% nail the absolute richness of an Ampex 351 that's modified, especially when it's pushed hard, it's very close and will probably get you to the right place most of the time. Right now you can pick up a mono original 351 for around $1,500 and spend at least another grand to get it modified. Or you can pick up the Warm WA-2MPX for about $2,400 Australian and get a stereo version that works straight away. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time for more audio stuff.